Well, I'm getting ready to make a box. I just started making a few the other day. And I'm wanting to make a special box to put some of my dog special things into. So this walnut is about 7 inches wide. And this pine is 1.5 inches. I'm going to glue them together, and then after I glue them together, they dry. Then I'll cut them down to size. Then after you glue these boards up, let them set for an hour or so. Then they should be stuck together extremely well, but you can't do any hard cutting or anything that puts a lot of stress on them. Then take a damp cloth, very damp, and just wipe off the excess glue. That way you don't have to do as much sanding. Now you just want to, it's been sitting about an hour, hour and a half. It's still a little wet or gummy. Some of you can just wipe off with a damp rag. Some of you got to scrape. You just want to make sure that you don't gouge into the wood. I got the stop block here still to make sure these are the same size. What you want to do is once you cut your length in this blade and make sure it's turned off, unplugged, you want to make sure this blade's going to cut enough to catch the tip or a little bit above the end of this, so you have a 45-degree angle, which on a lot of your saws you just loosen a brake and adjust it up to where it says 45. But if you want to be 100% perfect, the table saw itself may be off a little bit. Back in there until you know that blade is stopped. Waiting a few seconds can save you some fingers. Then you want to make sure, flip your board around, because you want to make sure that you get your 45 on the same side, not a 45 on this side, on that side. It can easily happen. I do the same thing with my tins. So after I got my box cut, I need to make a bottom. So I measured to try to get everything centered from here to here. It's 5/8 of an inch. That side's 5/8 of an inch because this board is smaller, but all you need is a smaller piece to go inside. And 5/8 here and 5/8 here. So I'll take a pencil, I'll draw the back line where I'm going to cut it off at, and then I would draw inside to know that I got to cut some out for this bottom to slip up in here. So now all I'm going to do is cut this board to a smaller size. And then where I drew that square for the bottom to come up into, I'll cut right on the outside of those lines. And this bottom piece here, it's very, very important to cut on the outside of the lines. And I knew I should have drew my line over the back to make sure it's perfectly lined up, but I didn't. But I knew better. So I cut it about a 1/16 or a hair bigger, or more, 1/16 or a hair more off of it than I should have, and the bottom was too loose. So then I got to have a little tiny strip that is only about a 16th or a little over, and that's what I'm doing, is gluing it to the bottom, so when I put this back in here, it'll be a snug fit. Also, I made this sanding board here. It's just a board, and I got cut a belt in half that broke, and put it on here and stapled it down. And when I've got pieces that are too wide for my sander, then I rub this across here and get everything smoothed out a little bit and get the edges knocked down if I had to glue them. Same way with this big box here. It's way too big on my sander to get everything even, so just a little bit high on the edges. So if I had another piece on here, it would be better, but for this one piece, I'm just going to use this and lightly sand it to get it flatter. Another thing to always remember, it's best when you have this in boards before you actually start cutting it into pieces, is to sand your boards down good. Well, if you lightly wet them and wet the grain, it will only raise on you one time. And then sand them while they're still in boards is a lot more simpler, especially if you're making littler boxes, a lot smaller than this. This is the third box that I've ever made. This is actually pine and walnut. I put the pine on the bottom and some on the top, glued it all together as one big board, which is the easiest way to do it. It's the only third box ever made. This one is actually about 10 wide by 12 long. It's going to be for putting my dog's tags and items in. And I made it especially for him, so I can put all his memory stuff in it, because it's painful. But it turned out better than I thought. But it's not 100% perfect, but close enough where most people could not tell. Well, this is the box that I made for my dog to put all of his tags and some of his toys and different things of memory of 13 years, made out of walnut and pine. My sister actually gave me this for my birthday, even though it has the wrong date, 2023. It was really 24. It's just very nice, and I decided here's a good place for it, because I didn't want to put it on the front of my car and it get tore up. And this is his box. The last things he had over 13 years. He was special, so I made a special box. He definitely was my world. It meant everything to me. Memories of my dog Rocky. This box was made for my dog Rocky, who we had to have put down. This is his collar when he was a little baby, all the way up to 13 years. His tags and collars, balls, things that he played with for 13 years. One of the finest dogs I've ever known. Not because he was mine. He was that good. My dog Rocky, 3/27/24.